What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be installing a set of illuminated door sill replacements for the Infiniti Q50. So by the end of this video, you should know a little bit about the product, how it performs, how to install it, and where to pick up a set for yourself. So with that said, let's go ahead and check out the kit and get this thing installed. So the kit in question is a 4-door illumination kit. The kit actually replaces your front and rear doors and allow illumination in all 4 of them. They are pre-wired and come with a set of extension wires and the wire connectors to make the kit installation as easy as possible. Now, since this is an aftermarket kit, it does not have any of the factory clips that mount to the body of the car. However, it is cut large enough so that once installed properly, it will cover up any pre-existing holes in the body of the car, making the installation clean and seamless. Now, I have the white LED kit. However, it does come in a variety of colors. As you can see in the video to the right-hand side of the screen here, that is just a mere example of what options are available, in addition to different colors and varieties that the kit is capable of doing. Now, if you would like to get a kit like this for yourself, after you've seen the video entirety and you like what you see, you can contact Joe Wynn. Now, many of you should know Joe Wynn if you've been in the Q50 and Q60 platform long enough. He is the administrator to the Q50 Q60 Facebook group as well as the Instagram page. So in order to get this kit, you can message him directly. I will leave a link to his Instagram page and his personal Facebook page in the description below, so that way you can message him with any questions or details regarding color options and pricing, so that way you can get this kit straight to you at your house. With that said, I'm going to show you what I'm going to use to install the kit, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. So starting on the right-hand side over here, I have 2 sets of wire cutters and crimpers, my set of pry tools for the plastic trim, electrical tape, X-Acto knife, assorted sets of pliers, and depending on how hard this kit's going to be to install, because it is universal, I also busted out my soldering iron, solder, heat shrink tubing kit, a series of assorted pin removers for some of the connectors just in case I need it, and a homemade soldering vise. So like I said, I'm not really sure what all I'm going to need to do this, but what I use that I've bought that the average person may not have at home, I'll provide links below, so that way if you want it and you feel it necessary, you can go ahead and purchase it and make this installation easier as well. Alright guys, so since I'm dealing with a universal kit, I did cheat a little bit in an attempt to make this video as short as possible. I pre-installed the passenger side just so I knew what I was dealing with, so that way when I get to the driver's side, there's no surprises. But as you can see, the front installs perfect, covers all the factory holes, and looks amazing. As for the rear, it was a little bit more troublesome, but I'll go over the details of that on the driver's side. Just know it is doable. They look amazing. Just takes a little bit more effort. First thing we gotta do, in order to put new stuff in, we gotta get the old stuff out, which means this door sill and that door sill needs to come out of the car to get the new ones to be put in. To get those out and to get access to all the wiring, this has to come off, this needs to be loosened, and same thing on the back side as well. So for this panel, you just need to grab it and give it a good tug upward, and it will come unclipped. Grab the front, same thing, just unclips from both front and rear. Once that's done, I came in and I disconnected the carpeting from these clips just to give me a little bit more extra space. And then the last thing is this piece right here needs to come off this way. There's a push plug here and a push plug here that goes inward this direction, which means you got to get back here and pull this way. So I'm going to go ahead and put the camera down, undo that, and then I'll bring you back in. So as you can see, by reaching up and grabbing right here on the panel and pulling it outward, you release that pin and that pin. Now this is all the farther you need this to come apart, because the clip you need to get this removed is actually right there. So again, I'm just gonna unclip the carpeting so that way we can see it. It's the plug and the clip I'm talking about is sitting right there. So now that that's loose, I'm gonna pull this up so I can see everything I'm dealing with. Now, I need to get my pry tools and pry this up. There are 3 push pins, and then right here and right here is held in by 3M tape. As I said, 1 clip, 2, 3, and then the center is held in by the 3M tape. I used the pry tool just to push and break up the tape to separate it from the panel. And it pops out pretty easy. Up here at the front is where your wire runs up and over the door sill. To do that, just pull this direction and it loosens up right there. Now, this wire is held in place by this zip tie, and by that zip tie right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my wire cutter, cut those 2 zip ties out, so that way we can unplug this harness from the clip right here. Again, all that does is just holds the wire down. Not necessary. But once that zip tie is cut, you can now reach back here and actually get access to the plug. The plug is wrapped in some foam tape, so all you gotta do is just get that foam tape off the plug and the plug will come right out. There's the plug. Press down here, just pull that way, and there's the unclip. Clip then slides out, comes around, and the front illuminated sill is out. Now, if you didn't have the illuminated sill, all you'd have to do was just pull up on it and release it from the pinpoints. Now, let's go ahead and go to the back and pop the back side out. So here are all the pieces removed. Again, like I said, same as the front. Just grab on the inside here and pull up on both front and rear of the panel, and it snaps right out. The clips holding it in place are there to there, and here to there. And then these little plastic tabs here actually clip in to these metal clips right there. They just pull right out too. Super easy. Then the weather stripping's removed. You can take your pry tool, stick up underneath here, pop, pop, and pop. And this piece literally comes right out. Now again, from the passenger side explanation, this is the plug that I had to plug off with the plug I got from Lowe's. I'll cover that when I get to the rear portion of this install. So for now, let's head back up to the front. If you have the factory ones pre-installed that are illuminated, it makes the job a lot easier because you can literally hook straight to the plug that's up front. If you do not have this plug installed, you have to find a power source that opens and turns on when the door is opened. The only thing I could think of to tap to that's easy would be those rear dome lights right there, by dropping this weather stripping right here and just pulling this down. You should be able to access both wires, tap into those wires, and run your power and ground down through the pillar, down in here, to connect to the aftermarket sills. So as long as you have that light turn on when the door's open, these sills should activate on all 4 corners and work just fine. That'll take a little bit longer, but it is easily doable. For me, I didn't have to do that because I have the plugs here. So I'm gonna go ahead and head over to the workbench, and I'm gonna show you what I do wiring wise to get this installed with the back as well. Now, as I said, I plan on using the factory clips for the system to get my power and my negative. What that means is that I don't necessarily need to use any of these. These aren't necessary because I don't want to have to splice or connect into any of the factory wiring. I want it to be as 100% original as possible. So I'm not gonna use these. What you could use as I go through this process is butt connectors or those, but my overall plan is to go ahead and solder these wires together so that way the wires are clean and I know for a fact they're not going to come loose later on down the road. I can then heat shrink these and make them real protected and real secure. So the first thing I need to do, and I'm glad that I actually did it, was I need to cut this plug off of this wire because I will not be using the plugs at all for the first iteration of this installation. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Since I'm not using the plug, I also don't need this plug, which is fantastic that I actually have this pin removal kit because though this plug isn't needed, the pins in the plug I can use to plug straight into the plug that's in the car. Sounds confusing, but I'll explain it once I get in there. But first, I need to move these pins. To remove the pins, you just find a tool that will fit into the slot, slide the pin tool on top of the pin itself through the opening. That way you can hit the clip and will allow you to pull the plugs out just like that. Now that those are out, I don't need this anymore either. So as I said, these are going to be plugging into the factory clip that's in the car now, which means this end is going to be soldered to these two to make the front light work. But in order to get my rear light to work, I'm going to have to wire these two also in to this system, so that way both doors activate when the front is plugged in. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the soldering process of getting these together and building a pigtail to come off of that solder joint to go into these bullet disconnects, so that way I can easily and quickly disconnect them if I ever need to remove these lights without having to cut any of the wiring. So I'm gonna go ahead and go into time lapse and start my soldering and my wire preparation. So now that I have the front portion all soldered together and I have the quick connects hooked to the front wiring, I'm gonna go ahead and hook the other quick connects to the back wiring, so that way when this is fed through from the rear up to the front, I can simply just plug these in and the back lights will work in conjunction with the front lights. Just mark them with a black line to indicate which one is the negative and which one's the positive. All right, so to recap, what I did, I took my soldering iron and basically soldered together the wire set that is running out of the door sill and wired it and spliced and soldered it to the extension line that came with the kit. I took the plugs out of the clip that came on the wire, plug into the factory clip on the car, and then coming off the back side, I put in second wire that I had a roll of to a set of quick connects that are gonna go to the car at the rear, to the rear door sill. So now that this is all done, we'll go ahead and throw this in the car. I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll finish the wiring of the back door sill and then install that one. First, we need to clean and prep this. So I need to get the glue off. For the old 3M tape, I'm gonna use probably Goo Gone and heat, and then scrape this off. And once all this is gone, I'll use rubbing alcohol to clean up this entire area so the new tape can stick to the surface. Once that's done, we'll go ahead and continue. So for right now, this is just temporarily set in place. I don't have it taped down or anything. I'll worry about centering it and placing it once I have everything else squared away. The plug, as I said, it simply just plugs in to the end of the factory clip, as you see right there. The positive is on the outside, the negative is on the inside. I'll go ahead and wrap that up with tape the rest of the way, put a piece of heat shrink around it, so that way everything stays in one place. And then we'll unplug it, route the wiring through the wiring ports on the frame of the car, run these wires back here to the back, and then once all this is wired, we'll put this down, then we'll move into the back seat, push the wiring up this way, and then mount the one in the back. And we're gonna be almost done. All right, so the heat shrink is applied. I went ahead and marked the positive with a red stripe using a Sharpie marker. Now I'll go ahead and route this through these ports and plug it back in. And we'll test the light and make sure that everything works. All right, so that's plugged in. So now before we stow everything and tape this off to make sure it doesn't come unplugged, let's go ahead and press the door button and release and make sure this thing lights up for us. And there she is. Beautiful. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap some tape around that clip, seat it back down here inside the tubing, and then I'm gonna place some tape down on the frame here to wrap this around and over, and then I'll tape it down on top as well, just make sure that it doesn't move. And then we'll place this thing down and move on to the back. There we go. All right, so now all we gotta do Since we have the plugs already on this end of the cable, what we're gonna do is we're gonna sit this down right here, run it under the weather stripping, and we'll take this wire, we'll run it through the wiring port, just like we did up front. Now we'll just take this cable, lay it on the floor of the car, and just guide it up under the B-pillar and into the front. All right, so once it's routed through the front, plug it in right here. Tuck the wires like that. Go ahead and place your carpeting back into the ports. Push that back in. And now it's doing its fancy thing too. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the front back together, and then we'll mount the back one. So same as the front, I put 3 coats of tape down on the pinch weld to protect the wiring, and then 2 layers on top to hold it in place. Now, I'll go ahead and flip it up. Remove the red backing from the 3M tape. So what I did was I lined this edge up just past this first hole, so that way it is centered on the door jamb itself. Press it in till it comes up flush, and then simply place it down. And obviously, since the front door is shut, this one is not gonna illuminate, but it will when I open the front door. So watch and see. Functioning, good to go. Now, all we gotta do is tackle the covering of that hole right there. All right, so the opening of that hole is about a 1/2 inch by 3/4 of an inch. So what I ended up doing, I went to Lowe's and I got this ABS plastic black furniture plug. It came in a pack of 2 made by Hillman. I will leave the actual link to this on the Lowe's website, so that way you can order these when you order the Sills, because this works really well in plugging it. The only issue you'll have is the back of the plug is 3/4 of an inch all the way around. You only need a 3/4 inch by just over a 1/2 inch, so you're gonna have to make a template. So to do that, what I did was took some painter's tape and I laid it down over the hole and then just traced the hole out with a marker. Now I can take this, place it on top of the plug, and trace the plug out, and then cut it with an X-Acto knife. So now the tape is laid down centered on the plug. What I'm gonna do now is basically just cut straight down on the corners of all 4 sides, and then run across the actual face underneath, and cut all those down level with the bottom of the plug here. So that way this should slip straight into that hole. So with everything cut down, it'll look something like that right there. Now, what I gotta do is take this, verify our parameters are good, and then push it in place. And there we go. The rear is completely in and good to go. Well, there you have it. There's the total complete installation of the front and rear illuminated door sills from Joe Wynn. If you are interested in getting these, again, I will leave his links in the description below to his personal Instagram page and his personal Facebook page. You can message him directly for pricing and details. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.